And welcome back, everyone. The most interesting game, obviously, is between Fabiano and Shakriyar. This has this classic e4 variation in the Four Knights English. I played this quite recently in the American Cup against Wesley. It was played in the World Championship, of course, between Ding and Nepo. And this whole line with Bishop c5 is supposed to be objectively safer than Bishop b4. It should be more forcing, per se. Fabiano, it appears, has kind of surprised Shakriyar. He's played this rookie one line. Now, my guess as I think about that position is most likely it's probably completely fine for black, but I suspect it's one of these situations where you have to start playing like a complete lunatic or a 3500 computer. And probably, just thinking about it, I was wondering if black should take on e6 with the pawn, go queen e5, king f7, king e8, and just try to play the position. And I think it's fine, but the problem is, again, from a practical standpoint, it's probably much easier for white to play since your black can get stuck in the center. But I'm betting that if you were to look at the position with Stockfish, it's going to say that it's complete zero, is completely fine, white is nothing. So it feels like Fabiano's kind of gambling on it. The Shakriyar won't be able to play that sort of style. Notreback versus Gukesh, which of course is this old Shabalov G4 and the semi-Slav. This whole H3, this H3 move, I feel like I've seen it, but not probably in the last not in the last 20 years. I remember I was an up-and-coming player in the early 2000s. I actually played this line quite a bit, this whole G4 line. In fact, the longest game that I ever played was in this G4 variation. I believe it was against Zhu Chen. It was something like 229 moves in Tata Steel, and God only knows, 2004, 2005. Although in that game, I believe she played Bishop b4. She didn't take the pawn on g4. So that's actually interesting as well. And then the other game is the game between Wesley and Alireza. Of course, there's this whole classic Grunfeld line, this whole queen a5, queen a2, rook b1, rook b7, etc., etc. I remember, I think it was 1999. There was this famous New in Chess yearbook that I remember studying quite avidly. There was a game that was played between, I believe it was Alexander Halifman and Peter Lecko. Maybe I'm wrong on the players, certainly, but I remember there was it was 30 pages or something of nonstop analysis of this whole long line in the Grunfeld. And I think nothing has changed objectively. It's still considered to be a draw, but it's pretty much going to be a memory test for Alireza, whether he can remember the correct lines, because Wesley is basically saying if you play correctly, you'll draw. If you make even one mistake, you're going to be much worse if not losing. So that's also interesting, probably a big memory test there for Alireza. So Magnus's game is kind of interesting. Magnus deciding to play Sicilian, obviously was here in the confessional box before me. He's playing the Sicilian. Tari plays Bishop b5 instead of sort of going into the open Sicilian. Now, all this look kind of normal, but I'm a little surprised that Tari did not play queen takes d4. In general, queen d4 is much more principled, leads to a much more set kind of position with very clear-cut plans for both sides. Generally, after queen d4, black will play some e5 with knight f6 or h6 first in that order. And it's much more concrete. In fact, I think Magnus might have played this against Vichy with the white piece or something very similar. So Tari playing knight takes d4 is a little bit surprising. I think that Tari basically here is saying that he's going to be aggressive. He wants to play rook e1, knight c3, bishop g5, maybe queen d2, something along these lines at least. So it's a little bit, it seems like Tari wants a game as opposed to trying to be solid here. So again, I think Magnus is probably going to get very good chances to win today. Notreback and Fabiano, where of course, we have the classic duel of the ex-lovers, as we like to say. Obviously, I don't literally mean that in the true sense, but you have, of course, Fabiano, who worked with Rustam Kasimdzhanov for many years, even through the candidates, I think in 2020 or 2019-2020, around then. Of course, they split after that. They haven't worked together. Now Rustam is here with Notreback Abdustarov, the very talented Uzbeki junior. Of course, what's also funny about this game is that I was wearing this exact same shirt, and it was in the first round of the candidates last, I think it was late June, if I remember correctly, when Fabiano played the same knight b3 idea to go knight a5 against me. So it's kind of funny to see this line on the board, Fabiano with the black piece in this situation, whereas against me, he had the white pieces. So that looks, it's pretty normal so far. I think we'll see which line Fabiano goes for. Again, I've looked at this quite a bit, so I won't reveal any of the specific lines, but there are multiple options here for black that should be playable. So we'll see what Fabiano does. I don't expect him to be that surprised by the choice, though, because of course he played this against me with the white pieces. And one thing that Fabiano is very good at is memorization, on top of all the great prep he has, but his memorization tends to be very good. So even if he hasn't looked at it recently, he definitely has looked at it from the white side. So I expect him to play pretty quickly, and we'll see how that develops. And of course, we have the classic game between Magnus and Alireza. And I think what Magnus is doing by playing this bishop d3 line, which of course is complete nonsense. I mean, even I've played it actually in plenty of blitz games. But I think what Magnus is doing here is something he did a lot when I played against him when we were younger, which is he likes to provoke people. And I think for Alireza, he's definitely feeling the pressure and maybe being really excited about the game. And I think Magnus, what he's trying to do is trying to provoke Alireza to start pushing pawns or push p on the king side, as he's saying classic internet lingo. He's trying to get him to push and be too aggressive early in the game. Now, whether that's correct or not, hard to tell. But I do like Magnus's chances. I think he's trying to get Alireza to become a little bit too aggressive and a little bit too excited about the game. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Now, as far as my game goes, of course, this is a classic moment of chess or poker or gambling, bluffing, whatever you want to call it. And then what is the other game that I'm forgetting? There's one other game. Yes, there's Alireza's game against Anish Giri. And Alireza played e4, e5, knight e3, knight e6, and g3. A very similar situation, I think, where Alireza is just sick and tired of playing theory, and Anish, obviously one of the best prepared players out there. So he's just trying to avoid theory and play chess once.